Good morning. I'm Shane Mazzella with the Fund for American Studies. I would like to welcome you to the commencement exercises for the class of 2014. First things first, I would like to congratulate each one of you who is graduating from an institute today. We are here to celebrate your accomplishments this summer, which are many. Here's just a snapshot. Collectively, all of you have earned almost 1,900 credit hours from George Mason University. You volunteered over 750 hours at community service projects directly benefiting the DC community. You've had the opportunity to attend almost 75 site visits and special events. You have worked almost 70,000 hours at internships at over 250 organizations, including government agencies, law firms, media outlets, government affairs offices, and nonprofit organizations. Please go ahead and stand and give yourselves a round of well-deserved applause. So to start things off this morning, there are many people to thank today, including your internship supervisors. We had over 200 mentors who volunteered their time. We also had over 150 guest speakers and small group discussion leaders who volunteered their time this summer. We would also like to take a minute to thank your professors for their contributions to the classroom. We have a number of professors with us today, including Professors Cranenwitter and Zarnecki, Professor Boyd, Benedetto, Professors Reynolds, Boxker, Professor Gary Armstrong, Professors Rob Rafferty, Matt Mitchell, Michael Collins, and Bill Doherty with the IBGA. I would also like to recognize the parents and family members who have traveled to be with us today. Thank you for giving your son or daughter the opportunity to spend a summer away from home and for supporting them along the way. Can we have a round of applause for our parents, please? I would also like to thank the Fund for American Studies staff. It certainly takes a village to put together 8 weeks of programming for almost 300 students this summer. So if you can bear with me, I would like to recognize our program staff members. Working on our ICPES program, Dylan Reed and Sarah Myros. Working on our International Affairs program, Matt Pfister and Pat DeFrancesco. Working on our political journalism program, Joe Stars and Carrie Travis. Leading our business and government affairs program, Colin Parks and Joel Troutman. Leading our philanthropy and voluntary service program are Kristen Wright and Kristen Underwood. Our recruitment and admissions team, Dana Fott and Mally Woodfin. Yay. Jessie Schaefer, who puts together many of our special events, including today. She also runs our mentor program and leads our housing arrangements. Thank you, Jessie. Jane Mack, who also helps put together our special events. Michelle Lee, who runs our alumni and international affairs programs, as well as our executive team at TFAS, including our chairman, Randall Teague, and our president, Roger Ream. I would also like to thank our academic team at George Mason University. They are our academic hosts for the program, including Mark Funstein, who is our TFAS program manager based in Arlington, as well as Professor Dan Hauser, who's the chair of the economics department. Well, students, we'd also like to thank you. We are honored that you chose to spend your summer with us. We truly appreciated that you managed to work hard and play hard without losing your enthusiasm for this city, your classes, and your internships. And we would like to especially thank you for taking the time to really get to know each other, your roommates, your coworkers, and other TFAS students. We hope that some of your most important learning came from your classmates. We also hope that the strength of these connections will last long after today's ceremony. We were amazed at your willingness to stick out your hand and introduce yourself to just about anyone. We were excited to have students meet many prominent figures this summer while covering events, attending hearings, and sometimes just on the street. They met DC luminaries such as the current President and First Lady, Vice President Biden, the Clintons, the Cheneys, the Speaker of the House, the Secretary of the Army, and numerous senators and representatives, really too many to list. They also met cast members from TV's House of Cards and top journalists, including David Gregory of Meet the Press. Someone once said, opportunity dances with those already on the dance floor. And I'd like to think that each of you has put yourself on that very dance floor this summer by making special contributions to your classes and your internships. And we have no doubt that you will continue to make that kind of impact wherever you go, whether it's graduate school, your first job, here in DC, or back in your home community. Thank you for everything you did to make this summer such an incredible experience. Now I'm delighted to ask Joseph Stars, who in addition to overseeing our political journalism program, also serves as Director of US programs here in DC. He's going to come to the podium to introduce our student speakers. Joe?
Well, good morning, everybody. We'll begin with our Pledge of Allegiance, and to give credit where credit is due with an invocation. Leading us in our pledge this morning is Kyle Andreessen from Utah State University. He's a major in international studies, and he interned this summer with the Rumsfeld Foundation, and he served our nation in the United States Navy. Leading us in our invocation is Jennifer Tomini. She's a rising senior from Texas Christian University, majoring in political science, her hometown in Lake in the Hills, Illinois, and she interned this summer at the Cato Institute. Jennifer and Kyle, please.
Please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated.
Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this occasion that we have to gather with friends, family, mentors, to celebrate a time of success and transition from the Fund for American Studies program. We come before you today humbled by your goodness and grace. As we think of the many blessings and opportunities you've so graciously provided us this summer, we're reminded of how much you care for each of us. We praise you for bringing us together in Washington, D.C. to participate in this program, and we thank you for giving us the strength and the endurance to complete it. We appreciate the ways this program has helped us grow our character, our knowledge, our skills, and our friendships. May we continue to grow in all aspects of our life and to seek you in the decisions we make. We praise you for the freedoms and the abilities you've granted to each of us. Give us the strength and the wisdom to use these to better our lives and the lives of those around us. Thank you for your love and your mercy in our own lives, Lord. It's not by any means of our own that we've acquired and achieved all that we have. It really is by your grace. Bless our time now together and guide our lives as we depart from the nation's capital and embark on our own journeys. In your name we pray, amen.
Now we'd like to hear from a student representing one of each of our summer institutes. We start with Zach Dunn, who is with our IPVS program. He's a rising senior at the University of Texas in San Antonio with a major in finance. His internship summer was with the U.S. Representative Joaquin Castro. Representing our IEIA program, our International Affairs program, Liliana Maturano. She's a rising senior at Elon University. Her hometown is Westbury, New York, and she interned this summer at the State Department. Representing IPJ is Yanera Garcia. Yanera graduated in May from the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Her major was journalism, public relations, and advertising, and her hometown is Omaha, and she interned this summer at Telemundo. And representing IBGA, our Institute on Business and Government Affairs, Shiraz Dole. Shiraz hails from the University of Hawaii, major in finance, and interned this summer at US Telecom. And finally, representing IPVS, Alyssa Perez. She's a rising senior from Loyola Marymount University with a major in political science, and her internship this summer was with Youth Service for America. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the guy that doesn't go to Harvard. No. No, it's an honor to be in front of you here today. I'd like to say a few thank yous. Mom and Dad, you're not here, but I love you. My sister, I like you too. Just kidding, I love you. To my mentor, Brian Zakinski, who taught me how to be a better man and a better leader. To the staff in Joaquin Castro's office, to Dylan and Sarah and IPVS for kind of help facilitating the program. To my roommates in 315, Dominic, Etienne, Edgar, tú eres mi chicos. So today I'm going to start off with a little movie reference, and I can't really see everyone in the stands, but if you've seen the movie Gattaca, could you please raise your hand? Okay. So I'm going to give you a little 30-second synopsis. There's two kinds of people that are born in the future. You have those that are born of like the natural birth, and those that are born like engineered to be smarter, stronger, better, faster, the whole shebang. And there's these two brothers born. One of them is born with a natural birth, and the other one is born engineered. So the one that's born natural obviously has a lack of ability compared to his brother, and he wants to go in the space program. But in this future, being in the space program is only for those that have been engineered, so it's illegal. So his brother works as a cop in the space program to make sure people don't infiltrate it, and here he is trying to sneak in and be a member. That's his dream. That's what he wants to do with his life. So midway through the movie, he gets caught. People find out, hey, this guy's been sneaking in. This guy that's of a natural birth has been trying to be in the space program. So his brother and him meet at this beach, and it's something they did as a kid, and what they did was they raced out into the middle of the ocean. It's kind of a metaphor to who is the superior person, who can do more, who is better, at least according to the engineered brother. So they're swimming out there, they're fighting the waves, both of them are going at it, and finally, the one that's been engineered, the other brother, he pulls up and he yells at his brother and he says, "Vincent." He goes, "How are you doing this? How are you doing any of this?" To which his brother replies, "I'm doing this, how, you ask? Because I never saved anything for the swim back." And that's something I feel like a lot of us came into the TFAS with, that kind of mentality. You know, somebody had to come to TFAS this summer. Somebody was going to intern. Somebody was going to shake the hand of a representative or a senator or a CEO or someone like that. Somebody was bound to be here and make the most of those opportunities. You know, I read that opportunities are never missed. They're actually just taken by someone else. But why not you? Why not us? Why not now? Why not right here? So this program challenged us both intellectually and mentally. You know, Professor Cranwitter and Bradley definitely had the unique ability to judge our class in the IPVS. You know, people were challenged left and right. Whatever your beliefs were, everyone I felt like grew throughout the course of the program. And for many of us, that would prove quite difficult at times. Some of us were just so tired after the internships, but we pressed on. And as my mom likes to say, we broke off the rearview mirror. Why did we do that? Because we're never looking back. So I'd like to close today with just a short speech, and it's a story that has nothing to do with interning or taking classes or briefings, but it has everything to do with the DC experience. So Edgar, my roommate, and I were headed out to Georgetown, and we were like, you know, we want to see the campus. We heard nothing but great things about it. Turns out it's a beautiful campus. We were there for hours just checking it out, the fields, the library, the dining halls, everything like that, just kind of taking in the day. And it was towards the end of the day that we saw a ton of people walking out of one building. So I looked at Edgar, partner in crime, and I said, dude, we got to check this out. So we walk up, we're kind of going against the grain, and we walk into the building where everyone is, and there's a banner hanging up, and you can tell it's like a conference of some kind. We didn't know the acronym, we didn't care. We kind of just wiggled our way through the lines. No one was checking registration, so I think we got lucky. And we're walking to this big conference, and there is food everywhere. And if anyone knows the struggle of TFAS, we seize the moment. So, so we're there, we're sitting, and we found out later it's a housing conference, like residence halls and housing. And there's 800 universities there. Incredible number. And wouldn't you know, I had that craving for the shrimp crackers, and of course, my housing coordinator from my university, out of the 800, also wanted shrimp at the same exact time. So I shake hands with him. The chances of seeing someone like that is just super slim. It was an incredible experience just getting to talk to him again, kind of separate from my role at the university. And we talked to him, we were like, we didn't really know what to expect. And he goes, you know what, enjoy the day. Network with some people, have fun, enjoy the food, you're here. It's a great amicable atmosphere. He goes, take it in. So Edgar and I stayed for a few hours. We passed out business cards to people in housing and residence life. We definitely met some great people. We heard some great stories, and we took in the day, and we enjoyed that moment. Well, it was when we were walking back home that night that we realized that that moment would never happen again. You see, we had made the best of what was around us, and we took a chance. Sure, we could have turned away. We could have not taken that chance. We could have not stepped out of our comfort zone, but we chose to, and because of that, we reap the reward. You see, that's what I hope each of you leaves here with today, with your experience with TFAS in the past 2 months that you've put into improving yourself, for yourself, your family, your communities, all of the above. You see, what you've done in TFAS has already left you. That experience has already happened, and it's in the past. But what you do forward is unwritten. You see, I hope you dare greatly. I hope you leave your comfort zone, and I hope you try new things. I hope you fail and fail again on your way to success. I hope you take a chance when others won't. I hope you are brave enough to do today what it is that your heart desires. And I hope you never save anything for the swim back. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good morning to all the TFAS board members, staff, donors, visiting family and friends. Big congratulations to all graduating institutes today. As a member of the Institute of Economics and International Affairs, I can personally speak about Pat DiFrancesco and Matt Pfister, who have supplemented our experience through their careful organization, 24-hour on-call help, and constant inspiration. Thank you for continually setting yourselves as examples of true DC-driven young professionals for the graduating 2014 IEIA class. We appreciate all of your hard work and organization that has definitely not gone unnoticed. I remember the day that I called my dad to tell him that I had officially claimed my major. Upon entering Elon University in North Carolina, I was set to claim my major in religious studies within the first 2 months at my new home. I quickly tacked on a minor in Middle East studies with the mysterious and utterly complex lands of the Near East beckoning to be the core focus of my 4-year study goals. At Elon, I spent time learning about the proper way to academically study religion in addition to studying Arabic, dabbling in Pauline scripture exegesis, and even studying history and theology abroad at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. But with all of my academic passions for religion and the Near East coming to the surface and my interests aligning, something was still missing. The missing link was finding my voice for my passion of religious ideologies and the existence that religion has at the crux of foreign relations around the globe. My first step toward finding this voice began with my internship this summer with the U.S. Department of State within the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor in the Office of International Religious Freedom. I was introduced to TFAS through the State Department shortly after obtaining my internship in January. After speaking with my folks, I was certain that TFAS would be the additional facilitator that I had been looking for that would help to support my passions with tangible experiences and professional relationships. This was manifested tenfold and then some. In every debate, event, site visit, it was my personal challenge to link the issues of religious undertones that are evident to me every day in accordance with a speaker or briefing. And trust me, I know that when I discuss religion or my understanding of the importance of religion in foreign policy discussions, your eyes glaze over, as some people probably are doing now. But I tried my hardest this summer to commit to find out if my passion was worth it, regardless of making religion a collective concern to my classmates, colleagues, or contacts. This summer was about my own personal endeavors to confirm my passions and no one else's. At all of our IEIA events, regardless of my surface connections with the speaker, I believed that it was worth it to speak to each and every invitee and share some of my 150 business cards that I came to Washington with. I can happily say that I'm currently down to 4, and I have a running list on my computer of any and all contacts that I've made in Washington. Through all of this, IEIA has taught me that you do not have to sacrifice your passions for a job, internship, or conversation. In such a goal-oriented city, Regardless of whether or not you share the same career goals, people are always fascinated to hear about what brought you to care about what you are pursuing. IEIA truly allowed for these conversations to happen in the classroom, at events with our professors, and even on the metro, that godforsaken metro. Through the connections that I made with IEIA, I quickly realized that my fervor for my academic pursuits proved to be topics that many here in this great city actually cared about just as much as I did. As a mere intern in this cosmopolitan nucleus of national and foreign interests, this comfort is more than I could have ever asked for in just a short 8 weeks. The academic immersion, internship etiquette, tailored IEIA events, unbelievably well-paired mentorship program, site visits, and networking opportunities have now become the framework that helped me to build my own personal security and launching pad for the years ahead. As senior year quickly approaches, I can go confidently in the direction of my dreams, securely knowing that what motivates me matters. Thank you, and congratulations to all 2014 institutes today on a job well done.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to thank everyone before I forget at the end of my speech, which I tend to do a lot. I want to thank Joe, Carrie, and all of the staff in general, but specifically in IPGA. This has been a wonderful experience for me, and I'm very grateful that I was able to be here this summer. This is a very cliche way to start a speech. It seems like it was just yesterday that we arrived at the Ivory/Schenkman Tower. Right, that was kind of confusing at the beginning, but we got used to it. Wondering what the next 8 weeks would hold for us. And now we are here at the end of those 8 weeks in our last event together. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties here. It has been quite an experience for all of us, at least that's what I hope so. Sorry. Some of the things that may not have turned out exactly the way we expected them, and some of them may have exceeded our expectations. However, it is not so much about the experience, what makes a difference, but what we do with it afterwards. For instance, we all know that we are here to live, learn, and intern. I'm sure each of us has at least one story to share about each of those categories. For me, living in DC has been a new but wonderful experience, especially coming from Nebraska, also known as no man's land. There was definitely some readjustments and getting used to, starting with the metro system. Somebody else mentioned that earlier, which was terrifying for me at the beginning. But technology is a huge help these days. The Metro app completely saved my life. The excessive amount of walking was also unbearable for me. But after a while, I got used to it. I loved it, as a matter of fact. And now going back home, I feel like I'm gonna miss walking, and I'm gonna find driving around weird. However, the culture, the ambience, and the many things to do in DC have been among the strongest factors that have made living in DC an unforgettable experience for me. Learning covers a range of things, from formal learning in the ethics and economics courses to learning from the professionals in the guest lectures and most importantly, learning about ourselves and our career paths. I can't list everything I have learned throughout IPJ, my internship with Telemundo Network in DC, and my roommates and other professionals I've had the privilege to network with. So I will just start by saying that I am confident I've become a better ethical person, a much educated consumer, a well-prepared professional, and and a decent roommate, since I've never been one before prior to coming here. Every single experience in the last 2 months, whether good or not so good, have been an opportunity to grow nonetheless. Speaking of growing, throughout my college career, internships have really shaped me as a professional and as a person. Had it not been for the many internships opportunities I had, I probably would have never met some of the most amazing people in my life. I certainly wouldn't be sharing my internship experiences here with you today. I'm gonna stop reading because I'm very nervous, and the text or the font size on this is very small, so I'm just gonna speak from my heart. Before coming here, I didn't know what to expect. As a matter of fact, I had told Joe that I wanted to do an internship somewhere in print. As a Spanish first native language, English is my second language, and so I felt like I needed to polish my writing skills. So I told Joe, please get me an internship somewhere where I'm gonna be writing. And Joe said something. He said, you have a very impressive broadcasting experience. I did radio back home for about 2 years. And he said, why don't you give that a shot? I said, yeah, but I really wanna learn how to write well. And he said, okay. By the time we were supposed to arrive here, I wasn't really finding the internship. I had interviewed for several places, but wasn't really finding the internship that I thought would be the best, or I wasn't hearing back from the people. Until finally Joe sent an email and said, you know what? My friend Lori from Telemundo takes interns. Would you be interested in that? Now, I grew up watching Telemundo, and to me that was like, what? A mind-blowing moment. And I said, of course I'd be interested. I totally forgot that I wanted to polish my writing skills. And I'm glad I took this opportunity because it has been a life-changing experience for me. And I'm not exaggerating, it really has. The morning of the 4th of July, I spent it at the White House. I met President Barack Obama. And that same day, I interviewed the chef of the White House. His name is Jose Andres. And I came to find out he's a very humbled and very awesome person. I've also had the experience to interview many congressmen and senators, most of them Spanish speakers. I've also been able to interview book authors and activists and just the common people out in the streets, which has been a great experience for me. I've been able to connect with them in their struggle and in the many stories that they have to share. And all of this experience together has really made me be more passionate in love the communications field more. I majored in public relations, but now I'm really hoping to pursue a career in the media. Some of those wonderful experiences at Telemundo have also been like last week on Friday. I was interviewed by Jose Diaz-Balart, the new anchor to the MSNBC show in the mornings. Not only was I completely shocked that I was being interviewed by one of the most successful Latino journalists, but also the fact that I was able to share my story and that many viewers heard my story, and I hope that they connected with me in some way or another. Being at Telemundo or interning with Telemundo has allowed me to witness their passion. Even though it's a small bureau, I've really been able to see how passionate they are about this field and how hard they work to make things happen, even during crunch time when it gets super, super stressful. But I've learned that when you truly love what you do, you will be great at it, and you will go above and beyond to do your job the best way possible. And I hope that if you learned something, at least through your internship, whether if it was that you like it or you loved it, or you decided you want to go to a completely different field for those of you who are still in school, then that's fine, because you know what? You have discovered something very special, something very important. And that is that you truly want to go after what you like and what you really want to do. And I hope that after our experiences here, that we go back to our homes and we do something with it. That we work hard to keep dreaming and to make those dreams come true. Thank you.
Aloha! My name is Shiraz Dole. Who would have thought that a freshman from the University of Hawaii at Manoa will be sitting in the office of President and CEO of the United States Telecom Association this summer talking about his accomplishments in GPA? I remember like it was yesterday. It was my first day of my internship, and Walter B. McCormick Jr. invited me to have a talk. You can imagine I was extremely nervous because he was the first president and CEO of any company I've met before. After I walked into his office, we had a little chat, and then he took out my resume and started to talk about different things that I did. Eventually, he came to my GPA and said, "Oh, I see you did exceptionally well during your first year of college." It felt like a hammer hit me in the head because I knew that was a representation of only my first semester GPA. My second semester, I became a little bit, I guess you could say, overly ambitious. I took 8 classes, was a part of 5 student organizations, and had an internship. Having my hands full would be an incredible understatement. My GPA fell that semester, and as a result, I felt a sense of doubt in myself. I did not really have any confidence, ambition, or drive that I once had. When I mentioned to him what happened and what my GPA was, I expected him to kick me out of his office right then and there. But do you know what his response was? He looked at me right in the eye with a huge smile on his face and told me, "So what? What's President Obama's GPA? What's Bill Gates' GPA? What's my GPA? Your GPA is very important, but at the end of the day, it's just a number. What does matter is integrity, internship work experience, networking, and leadership." He then began to list things from my resume that exemplified these qualities. I will never forget this conversation. It gave me hope, it gave me confidence, and it really made me believe in myself again. As I gaze across this audience, I realize that each and every one of us has gained knowledge and insights that will last us a lifetime. The Fund for American Studies, more specifically Business and Government Affairs, has been one truly extraordinary experience. Through TFAS, I've been given the amazing opportunity at interning at US Telecom. I worked in the Law and Policy Department for the first 4 weeks and the Government Affairs Department for the second 4 weeks. It was a truly fascinating experience because I was able to see what the work I had done in law and policy and how it transferred over to government affairs and then to Congress. And if all went well, a bill would be passed. DC, sorry, this is really out of order. In addition to this internship, I took 3 classes at George Mason University this past summer that really opened up my eyes to different beliefs and ideologies that I never crossed my mind before. Growing up in Hawaii, I never really paid attention to politics. I didn't know the difference between a Democrat from a Republican or even a Libertarian. Since taking the lobbying seminar course, I am now more than ever equipped with the tools to understand politics and to make my own informed decisions, not letting my judgment of the government to be swayed by sensational news headlines or social media posts. Through economics and regulation, I was educated on how economics applied to the government can really maximize the free market. I was educated about different topics such as opportunity costs, marginal revenue, and marginal costs. These topics really fascinated me for some reason. That was until I made the connection that my opportunity cost of coming to DC this summer was giving up beautiful weather and sunny beaches in Hawaii for hot and muggy weather and drenched suits that I just dry cleaned. Nonetheless, it was well worth the cost, and I benefited tenfold. The most important course I took this summer, and maybe even my whole life, was ethics and leadership. I learned that as a leader, you should model the way. Be the change that you want to see in your people. Encourage from the heart, because if you do not believe in what you are doing, how do you expect your followers to? Make sure those who are following you embrace your belief. And lastly, enable others to act. Work with others, because everyone wants to feel like they belong. In ethics, I learned how to live my life with integrity. In life, you're going to have to make some difficult decisions to make. Your employers does not pay you for the good days. No, they pay you for the tough days. At the end of the day, when decisions need to be made, John Lennon once said, "It's down to you, mate." If you think about it, the TFAS events are really the icing on the cake. I remember having conversations with my friends from back home. They would often ask me, "So, Mr. Big Shot, what have you been doing this summer?" I would reply that I had gone to the World Bank, Hong Kong Embassy, professional development seminars, talks at the Heritage Foundation, and even a Q&A from a senator on the House floor. In response, they'd tell me, "Brah, I know you're lying. I know you're just one summer intern. You're probably just getting coffee or something." And to be honest, I don't blame them, because if I were not here to this day, I would not believe it either. TFAS events gave me the opportunity to really demonstrate the attributes that I had going for me my first year of college. And that was my hard work and curiosity. I wanted to learn everything that I could and enrich myself with as much culture as I could find in DC. So I decided to take it upon myself to keep myself busy by signing up for an array of different events. I strive to get there early, pay attention, and take notes, and to really get something out of these events. 10 times out of 10, I achieved this goal. This summer, many of us have learned that the people you have met along the way will aid you to get you where you need to go. I cannot count how many times my roommates had to tie my tie for me before I finally got the hang of it. The people you have formed a bond with, they will catch you when you fall, and they will be the very ones to be there for you when you have fallen. And they will push you towards your goal. And when you reach your goals and when you achieve your dreams, remember about all the people that helped you get you there. Remember being an intern at that trade association. Remember being that kid falling asleep in class. Do your part to give back to the community. During one of the guest lectures, a man named Steve Shaudet once said, "We make a living by what we earn. We make a life by what we give." So pass on your wisdom, pass on your wealth, and pass on your guidance. For every one person you will help, they too will go on to help someone else, and you have made an impact on this earth. Thank you to everyone who has helped us reach where we are today. To our families, to our friends, and to the people we have worked with at our internships, to the wonderful TFAS staff, and to the generous donors who make this dream achievable for each and every one of us here today. Former President Ronald Wilson Reagan once said, "There are no great limits to growth because there are no limits to human intelligence, imagination, and wonder." Mahalo for your time.
I'm going to skip the good mornings because we've heard that a lot already. So I will start with, my name is Alyssa Perez, and I have been given the honor of representing the Institute of Philanthropy and Voluntary Service to share with you some of our experiences this summer. As we come to the end of the program, I can't help but think back to the beginning and how overwhelming everything was. It seemed so surreal, and I couldn't believe that I was actually here in DC, interning with a service-based organization and getting to know all of these students before me. I'm so lucky to be in IPVS because even though we were the tiniest program, we had the greatest director and even greater internships and events. I had the best time working with the raffle committee, and together with the various car washes, book sales, and movie nights, we were able to collectively raise $2,178 for Hope House, which provides programs to help strengthen family bonds between children and fathers who have been incarcerated far from home. This summer, we came together as a program and as a class to not only participate in many service events and philanthropy projects, but really went deeper and began talking about service, asking the hard questions, and why it's so necessary in our world today. Service isn't just something that you do. It's a way of life, and this summer has been a big step for me on my journey as I begin my final year of college and look ahead to the future. Working with Youth Service America these past few months has really opened me up to the possibility of pursuing a career in the nonprofit sector, and I know I could be happy for a long time working there. Being involved with an organization that connected all of my passions together, community service, youth leadership, political advocacy, it showed me really that service is what will change the world, and we're the ones to do it. I remember the first day at my internship, they invited the interns into the board meeting and asked us what made service meaningful in order for them to help develop their strategic plans. And we had just kind of done the internship seminar where it was like, maybe don't speak up in the board meeting, maybe speak to someone afterwards. But they directly asked us, and so my hand went up after being really intimidated at first. But I came to realize how valued my opinion was and how different this was going to be from any other internship I could have been at. I explained how, to me, service without reflection is just work, and the value of service comes in changing people's perspectives, and it's about meaningful connections to other people. Not long after that, there were plans to add and develop the discussion and reflection component of their programming for the year. I was blown away by how engaged and passionate everyone in that meeting was about their mission statement, and it was the best experience I could have had on the first day. To see a vision turn into a mission to a 5-year plan, and then to concrete steps to get them there. I could definitely see myself in that boardroom one day, and in fact, I plan on it. Being around so many other motivated interns and peers who are also trying to bring about positive change in this world has been really inspiring. The friends that I've made, not only in my internship, but especially the ones in this program, have changed me for the better. This summer was more than just about a group of students coming together to volunteer at a nonprofit because it sounded like a good thing to do. But rather, this summer has been the best investment of my time because I've been inspired by the work being done in my internship and given the knowledge of how these affects my future and how I can do more good in the world. It's no accident that this program brought together this group of students to this city, and I can only imagine the good that's going to come out of this room. One of my favorite quotes by Margaret Mead, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Some of my classmates will go on to be lawyers and judges, CEOs of nonprofits, teachers, community service directors. These are people who are going to change real lives and bring about change in the world, and I'm privileged to know them. Thank you to everyone who made this summer possible, and to my IPVS class. Thank you for being here and for being the kind of leaders that we need to see in the world today. Good luck and congratulations to the entire graduating class of 2014, and thank you.
Okay, so next we'd like to show some highlights, video highlights for the summer. So we want to.
Well, thank you. Congratulations to the class of 2014. That captured some of the highlights of the summer. I hope you all leave here with lots more in your heads and in your hearts and carry the memories on forever. I want to say to the parents who are here and to those not here, thank you so much for sending your sons and daughters to Washington this summer or allowing them to come. We really appreciated the opportunity to have them with us for 8 weeks. I can't tell you the number of times members of our staff reported to me about how engaged students were this summer, how appreciative they were of the opportunities they had, the great initiative they took in taking hold of all the opportunities we tried to provide to them. So thank you so much to the parents. Thank you also, I join Shane in thanking our faculty for taking time out of your normal summer break to teach courses for us this summer. We work hard to assemble an outstanding faculty, and we're grateful to you as well. I just returned from a program that the Fund for American Studies sponsors at the University of Hong Kong, where we have about 60 students from throughout Asia and the United States gathered for 3 weeks. And it was a great experience to be there with those students, many coming from countries that don't enjoy the same level of freedom and democracy and opportunity that we have here in this country. And it was a really good experience. We had, I think, 5 or 6 students with us from Nepal. And I'm reminded of them as I remember a story by a book by Jacob Bronowski called Science and Human Values. And Bronowski starts that book with the story of the mountaineering guides, the Sherpa, that live at the base of Mount Everest. And Bronowski writes about the fact that they've grown up looking at Everest every day, and then when Westerners come to climb the mountain, they often take the Sherpa around to the other side of the mountain. And when a Sherpa is there for the first time, seeing this mountain from the other side, they're confused and they look in disbelief, wondering what mountain this is. And when it's explained to them that this is the same mountain but from another perspective, their disbelief turns to amazement. And I share that story in the same sense that Bronowski did, that it's important to look at things from a different perspective, just as those Sherpa do when they travel to the other side of the mountain. And I hope that this summer, all of you students had the opportunity to look at things from different perspectives. I hope that occurred not only in the classroom and from our professors, but in your internship experiences, through your mentors, through the opportunities you've had to interact with each other through the course of the summer. I hope that you will always have an open mind and consider evidence from different perspectives before you reach conclusions and before you make judgments about people, about ideas, about places you visit. Look at things from a different perspective. I think that's very important, and that's one of the things we stress here at the Fund for American Studies. I also, before I introduce our speaker, just want to offer a few words of advice, I guess I'd say, things that I've collected over a few years that I hope also were impressed upon you this summer while you were here. The most important thing and a basic premise at the Fund for American Studies is the fact that one person can truly make a difference in the world. And I hope we send out from here almost 300 students this summer to go to their homes, their communities, their neighborhoods, their country, and into the world to make a difference. We do need young people who can make a difference because this world is full of problems. I don't have to go through them. You can see them every day in the newspaper. And we hope that this experience this summer will help you make a real difference. It often is just one person who makes that difference. In most of human history, I think, improvements, expansions of freedom have come when one person of courage was willing to stand up and say no. You can think of people like Rosa Parks, of course, in American history, that tank man in Tiananmen Square who stood in front of the tanks. It was one person, a small entrepreneur in Bahrain who started the Arab Spring by saying he wasn't going to take it anymore. So find ways in your families, your lives, communities to make a difference. I also just want to share one more story, and it's about the willingness to do difficult tasks. A lot of people in this world don't want to undertake difficult tasks. So if you're willing to do it when others won't, you could truly make a difference. And the story I remember in that regard is the story of a journalist who traveled to India to write a story about Mother Teresa. And she decided the best way to write a story would be to shadow Mother Teresa for a day. So she showed up in the morning where Mother Teresa was staying and said, "I'd like to shadow you," and Mother Teresa said, "Fine," and they went off on her first call to a hospital where Mother Teresa first went to this young woman who was deformed and ill and dirty and poor, and Mother Teresa gave her a hug and tended to her both physical and spiritual needs. And after that one encounter, this journalist said to Mother Teresa, "I couldn't do what you do for $1 million. And Mother Teresa said, "Neither could I." And so keep that with you as well. There are a lot of things in this world that we wouldn't do for $1 million or for $100. It's those difficult jobs that really do make a difference in people's lives. And be 288 students who are willing to do those difficult jobs and make this world a better place. It's my pleasure now to introduce to you Nikole Killion. Nikole is an award-winning television journalist and a Washington-based correspondent for Hearst Television. She files daily live reports on national news and politics for Hearst's 29 affiliated television stations around the country. She has covered presidential campaigns, interviewed presidents and cabinet secretaries, and been on the scene of most of the major breaking news of the past decade or more. Nikole joined Hearst from WJLA-TV here in Washington, the ABC affiliate, and News Channel 8, where she served as general assignment reporter and a substitute anchor. Before moving to the nation's capital, Nikole was an evening primetime anchor on WHAG-TV in Hagerstown, Maryland. During her stint there, she earned the AP Award for Outstanding Specialty Reporting. Nikole has also worked for Black Entertainment Television, WKYT-TV, a CBS affiliate in Lexington, Kentucky, and New York One News. She began her broadcast career as an assignment editor and field producer for NBC News in New York, where, among other stories, she covered the collapse of the World Trade Center on September 11th, 2001. Nikole is a member of the White House Correspondents Association, the National Association of Black Journalists, and she serves on the Board of Visitors of our own Institute on Political Journalism. She received her undergraduate and master's from Northwestern University, the latter from their Medill School of Journalism. Throughout her career, Nikole has exemplified the values and lessons she learned when she attended IPGA in 2007. While at IPGA, Nikole interned in the CNN Washington Bureau, where she worked with the political unit, assisting on shows like Crossfire, The Capitol Gang, and Reliable Sources. A few years ago, she conducted an interview for our TFAS newsletter and noted, "I absolutely loved my experience at TFAS. This was my first time in Washington, and being in the presence of so many political newsmakers was simply a thrill for a news junkie like me. The internship helped me prepare me for future broadcast journalism classes and internships." And then she recalled a specific encounter at an IPJ lecture with the then veteran White House correspondent Helen Thomas. Quote, "Thomas told the students that news is the first draft of history. To this day," Nikole said, "I still value that concept as a core principle of my daily reporting to ensure accuracy and fairness in each story that I cover." Close quote. Please join me in welcoming Nikole Killion.
Thank you so much, Roger. You're going to make me kind of tear up a little bit looking back on memory lane. But I want to thank everyone here at TFAS, Randall Teague, Shane Mazzella, Joe Stars, the Board of Visitors, distinguished faculty, staff, alumni, students, parents, and anyone else who might be joining us today. And thank you so very much for this opportunity to speak before you today. I'm extremely honored and very humbled to be with you. And so to break up the ice a little bit, I just want to start off with a little video that we have queued up, if you don't mind playing. Okay, so did that get you hyped up just a little bit? Just want to make sure you're awake out there. But obviously, how many of you know that chant? I should probably see every hand in the room, right? But more importantly, how many of you know that that chant actually originated in this area, the Naval Academy in Annapolis, which is not too far from here? That's a little bit of trivia to take home with you. But seriously, I wanted to start off with that because that particular anthem, I feel, was the anthem of this summer, was it not? As the country cheered on Team USA during the World Cup this year. In fact, I want to show you one more version, so let's take a look.
USA! Ole, 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 ole! USA! Woo! I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. Go! I believe that we will win. 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 I believe that we will win.
Gotta love Stephen Colbert, a Northwestern grad, by the way. But that's not why I played it. You know, really, whether it was Stephen Colbert or a group that I actually heard chanting this very chant in front of the Supreme Court the day of the Hobby Lobby decision, which I covered most recently, it's clear that this was an inspirational call that had become ubiquitous. And the reason I bring it up, yes, Nikole, what's your point here, is because I continue to be struck at how one small chant had the ability to mobilize a movement. And so I want you to think back to the World Cup. How many of you watched many of the games? Anybody? Okay. A couple of soccer fans out here. But really, if you think about it, I mean, the entire country seemed enamored by Team USA. And I can't explain all the rules to you about how we ended up in the round of 16. I'm sure some of you out there can. But you'll recall it came down to that final do-or-die match between the U.S. and Belgium. And I'm guessing on that particular afternoon, you probably weren't doing that much work at your internship or class that day. Just a hunch. But your secret is safe with me. Fortunately, though, I covered one of the many watch parties that was taking place around the country right here at Freedom Plaza here in downtown D.C., and I was just struck at how united the country was. I mean, you know, you had these watch parties everywhere from Chicago to Dallas, LA, neighborhoods, big and small, bars, people's homes, people's offices, everyone chanting for Team USA. And it's like everything suspended in time for that one particular moment to watch our team when everything was on the line, and then we lost. Remember that? It was crushing, heartbreaking, which is how goalkeeper Tim Howard put it. But here's the impressive part. It wasn't the record 16 saves that Tim Howard had that day, although that was a pretty amazing feat. What got me is that in spite of the U.S.'s loss that day, it still felt like a victory. Unlike, let's say, when the Miami Heat lost to the San Antonio Spurs earlier this summer, in case I have any basketball fans out there. But this particular scenario was a lot different. Tim Howard was the man. I mean, he became an instant viral sensation. There were Twitter handles and memes after him. Howard 2016, the President of the United States called him, so did the Secretary of Defense. You know, there was no sulking, no bemoaning the loss. It was almost as if, you know, everyone was so enthralled by the performance and play that we actually did win in some kind of odd way. And so that led me to ponder this question, that how is it possible that one can still cheer in the midst of a loss, a heartbreaking loss even? You know, if you think about it, the U.S. men's national team isn't necessarily known for its prowess at the World Cup. We were definitely the underdog going in, but yet there was still something, and I'm going to allude back to that chant, that made us believe. And I say all this to say that I could stand here before you today and tell you how awesome you are and that you guys are going to do so many awesome things, and you know, you guys already know that. And graduating from TFAS and your various institutes already propels you into a whole sphere of awesomeness. So you guys know that, you get that. I've seen all the activities you've done. Obviously, the video showcased some of those, meeting with Senator Rand Paul and visiting Capitol Hill, donating to charity, all of which is very wonderful and admirable. But in the words of Tim Howard on the day of that loss, he said, sometimes you give everything you have and do your absolute best, and it doesn't stack up. And so that's really what I'm here to impart to you today, really, which is the bigger lesson of how to deal with a loss. Because the reality is, as celebrated as you are now, as talented as you are now, as dynamic as you are right now, there are going to be some moments when you don't get into that prestigious program, or you don't get that first job, or you don't get into the grad school that's your top choice. And that's going to happen. And I'm sure some of you have already experienced that to a certain extent. But what's critical is how you handle those moments of loss and turn it into a victory. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I attended an event hosted by CNN and National Journal. It's a new series they have called Politics on Tap. And the inaugural guest was Senator John McCain. And he was interviewed by Jake Tapper of The Lead, Ron Fournier of National Journal, who's a senior political correspondent for them. And so their conversation meandered, everything from, you know, national news events, from this Malaysia Airlines plane that just went down a couple of weeks ago, to the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas. But then the discussion pivoted to John McCain's presidential runs in 2000 and 2008, both of which he lost. And McCain was asked what would have been different had he won in either election and become president. And Senator McCain suggested that the Iraq War may not have occurred. He went on to say, quote, "You'll find this surprising, but I think I would have been more reluctant to commit American troops." He also said, "I think that with my background with the military and knowledge of national security with these issues, that I hope that I would have been able to see through the evidence that was presented at the time." And it was quite an insightful moment that even caught some of the journalists in the room off guard and even generated a few headlines later that evening. And while, of course, we can't go back and change the outcome of either of those elections, it's clear that Senator McCain had reflected on his defeats and was very candid about what he might have done differently. And so similarly, when you confront those moments in your life, when you feel like you lost out on something big, own it, step back, regroup, and reflect, and then move on. And just to be bipartisan about this, let's take a look at Hillary Clinton. She's got a little book out right now, in case you haven't noticed. Hard Choices is what it's called, and she discusses her tenure as Secretary of State. Now, I haven't read the whole thing. I've started to go through it, but I just wanted to give you a little spoiler alert if for some reason you might be reading it or haven't seen the gazillionth media report about the book. But her first chapter begins with her loss to Barack Obama in the 2008 primaries. And she goes on to describe the day where she has to give her concession speech. And I was actually there at that speech back in June of 2008, not too far from here at the National Building Museum. And of course, she made the famous reference now that there are 18 million cracks in the glass ceiling as a result of her candidacy. And in her book, she goes on to talk about this and says of losing the race, quote, "As hard as all of this was for me, I learned a lot from losing. One silver lining of defeat was that I came out of the experience realizing that I no longer cared so much about what the critics said about me. I learned to take criticism seriously, but not personally, and the campaign certainly tested me on that." So again, own it. Don't take it personally if something doesn't go your way or somebody criticizes what you do or your work or your actions. Be up for the challenge and learn from it. And so I hope I'm not being too much of a Debbie Downer here. I know this is a very exciting occasion, but as a journalist, I really do feel like you need both sides of the story. And in this case, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because sometimes good can come from ugly and bad. And as long as I've been involved with TFAS and with IPJ, I've mentored many, many years. I've spoken to roundtable discussions and met classes of students over the years. But the one question that always comes up is how I got to the position where I am today. And I usually explain that I took part in IPJ back in the summer of Actually, I think Roger was pretty generous because I actually was in the program a little bit later than when he stated, but you can look in your program to find the exact year. But during that internship, as he mentioned, or during that summer, I got my first taste of broadcast news by taking part in an internship at CNN, where I learned how to put together my first package, which is a story in TV speak. And after that, I graduated 2 years later, started at NBC News as a researcher, got my first job on air, as you heard, in Hagerstown, Maryland as an anchor, moved down here to DC across the river to WJLA and News Channel 8, the ABC affiliate in town. All of that before I landed where I am now at Hearst Television as a national correspondent, where, of course, I've had the privilege of interviewing the President, the First Lady, Secretary of State, a number of political figures, although based on some of your testimonials, it seems like you guys have me trumped, which is not a surprise. But considering this is Throwback Thursday, when I was sitting in your seats and listening to our commencement speaker, I rarely talk about what it took to get to where I am, which means, aside from all the hops and jumps, I got a ton of rejection letters. There were a lot of jobs I didn't get. I wanted to work in Las Vegas. I wanted to work in LA. I wanted to work in Baltimore at one point. Got rejected from stations everywhere. In fact, probably for every job I applied to or for every job I actually got, I probably got a good 5 or 10 rejection letters. And some of them I still keep, and I look back on them from time to time, and the general sentiment is that thanks, but no thanks. Good luck with your career. And the bottom line is that it hasn't always been easy. And while you see the end result standing here before you today, the journey that I took and the journey that you're about to take may at times be like that US-Belgium game, where you're going to have to keep defending yourself and persevere and give it your all, 110%. And so whether you're a Tim Howard who stayed in the game, or a John McCain who stayed true to himself, or a Hillary Clinton who may try again, we'll find out soon, I'm sure. My closing message to you today is don't be afraid of defeat. Don't be afraid of messing up or making a mistake, because in the end, you will come out a winner. And so hold on to your dreams, don't let go, and most importantly, believe. And so on that note, and I hope this is not too corny, I am going to ask you to take out your phones, because I know you got them. I don't know if you're tweeting during this, but take out your phones if you have them handy. If you don't, it's okay. We're actually going to do a little selfie right about now. And I want you to turn on your camera, turn it towards you, hit the record button. Let me know when you're ready. All good? Okay. So hit record, repeat after me. I believe that, I believe that I believe that I will win. I believe that I will win. I believe that I will win. Congratulations, you already have. Save that for a moment where you need a little extra motivation, and congratulations on all of your future victories.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Randy's going to close. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chairman of the Fund for American Studies Board, Randy Teague.
Hey. As I look out across this auditorium, I see nothing but darkness. As some of you know, my second son is a Broadway producer and business manager, and I asked him once, I said, do the actors really get depressed when they're on stage and they look out and half the seats or a third of the seats or a fourth of the seats are empty? And he says they wouldn't have the slightest idea. So I trust that you will not walk out over the next 5 minutes. But let me make several brief points, because I think the points made by your representatives of each of the institutes this morning and the remarks made by Roger and our speaker have captured much, if not most, of what I wanted to say. But number one, I want to thank each and every one of you that found the Fund for American Studies through a contact on your campus or over the website or through an alum or a family member, for having chosen to be here with us this summer. We intend that 8 weeks to have helped transform you into a better understanding of yourself and what your goals and missions, aspirations, intentions may be in life. As someone outrageously older than you are, the only thing that I would ask you to do is to be very open when you go back to your communities and your campuses about what life may have to offer you. Listen to what others say about you. It's very important. They may see aspects and strengths inside of you that you may not see inside of yourself, and those observations may have influence about how you assess who you are and whom you hope to become. Item number two is that 8 weeks ago at orientation, I made the observation that this was going to be the fastest 8 weeks of your life. Between your living and interning and studying and so forth, this was going to be a very fast 8 weeks. I bring that up now at the end, or very close to the end of your 8 weeks with us, to just stress that every single 8 weeks of your life are the exact same measure of the 8 weeks that you're now finishing. There's not 1 nanosecond more or less in every 8 weeks that you're going to experience for the rest of your life. And they will, when all added up, have gone very quickly. But each 8 weeks gives you an opportunity to have the depth of experience that you have had here and to accumulate life and accumulate knowledge and experience in a way that makes you more productive for yourself and your families and your society, and helps you get to where it is you wish to go. David Jones used to say, and David was one of the founders of this organization, that there are many types of education. There's public education, there's private education, there's homeschooling, there's primary education, secondary education, higher education. But there is no education that will ever avail itself to you that is deeper and more important than self-education. And so it's critically important that you remember that. Don't ever go through a day that you have questions, that you haven't made a mental note or talked into your iPhone or jotted down that question that you don't know the answer to. Don't go to bed that night without hitting Google or whatever it is that's necessary to find out what the answers are. Because to the degree that all knowledge is cumulative, you want to know as many answers in life as you had questions about that life. Lastly, I would make an observation, and last night there were 8 or 9 or 10 students and their parents and their friends and I that helped improve the economy of Washington at the Ritz-Carlton bar. And, you know, it was really important to me getting the feedback from those students about how important this summer was. And I think the common denominator of those observations was that they all wish to return someday, somehow, to Washington. And as the nation's capital, and in some ways, and in many ways, the capital of the free world, to use that expression from older days, it's understandable why people would wish to return here. I came here a long time ago, and I lived down in Alexandria off the Parkway as you're headed down toward Mount Vernon, and I have a very short drive into work, only 22 or 24 minutes, which is wonderful compared to most Washington drives. But the U.S. Census Bureau tells me by zip code that there are now almost 40,000 people living between me and my job, more than when I first came to Washington. And so it is a growing community, and in some ways that's good, and in some ways it's bad, because it's bad to the extent that it indicates how important what goes on in Washington is to your life. And it did not always work that way when government was much smaller in the lives of our nation and the lives of our people. But Walter Judd, who was another founder of the fund, made an elected member of Congress. He'd been a medical missionary. He'd been obviously a medical doctor before he was a missionary in China. He was a longtime member of Congress from Minnesota. And he said to Mike Thompson and Dave Jones and others perhaps in this room one night when we were talking with him that if he could change the Constitution of the United States in any way, and he said, I don't know how you would procedurally ever do this, but nobody should be able to be elected to the Congress of the United States unless they had already been a success in something else. In public life, success is critical, but public life success should depend upon proven abilities of accomplishment in whatever fields of private life indicate that you're worthy to serve the people that elect you and bring you here. Because looking at it negatively, if you are not confident in whom you are, if you're not confident in your own financial strength, etc., you will never be able to vote how you really feel on a matter. You'll be terrified that you're going to be voted out of office and not have a job and not have an income. And so Walter would make the observation that I relate to you now, that you all wish to come back to Washington, and I appreciate that. I support that. But don't come back to Washington until you feel that you have accomplished enough in your life to be able to come here and do and choose and make decisions that reflect true values and not the political demands of the hour or the minute that are necessary to be on somebody's winning side rather than the long-term winning side as to what's good for the world and the nation. So thank you very much for being with us. I think we're about to break out into the individual sessions. At the end of those sessions, or actually in the process of those sessions, you will no longer be our students. Well, you're gone. You're going to be our alumni. And as alumni, we hope that you will remain active in the life of this organization, We want you to go back to your campuses and recommend to other people, to your communities and recommend to other people that they come here next summer. There were this year almost 100 students that we had to say, no, you can't come and be with us, because we didn't have enough money to give them the scholarships that would make it possible for them to be here. So as you go through your alumni life and you start making some money, send us $25 a year. As you make more money, send us $100 a year. We have 15,000 alumni, and it is remarkable the scholarship money that is provided by persons that attended our program, that went out into the real world, put a little money in the back pocket, but sent us a few pennies so that others in the future can have the same experience as well. Thank you very much.